The first thing Vivian Mercer noticed when she opened the credit card statement was that it didn't make sense. She sat at her kitchen island, coffee cooling beside her laptop, morning sunlight streaming through the windows of her suburban Chicago home. The numbers on the screen made her blink twice. There was a $4,200 charge from Cartier, a 1-800 dinner at Alinea, 3 separate charges from Nordstrom totaling over $7,000. Vivian scrolled down, her finger trembling slightly on the trackpad. A $900 hotel charge at the Peninsula downtown. She hadn't stayed at the Peninsula. She hadn't been to Alinea in years, not since her anniversary with Daniel 2 years ago. Her throat tightened as she continued scrolling. The total at the bottom of the statement, $23,487.63. This is a mistake, she whispered to herself. She reached for her phone to call the credit card company when she noticed something else. The statement showed 2 platinum cards, one in her name, one in Daniel's, and then a third, authorized user, Sophia Reynolds. Vivian didn't know a Sophia Reynolds. She set her phone down slowly. The room suddenly too quiet, her heartbeat too loud in her ears. She pulled up her text messages with Daniel. He'd left 3 hours ago for his quarterly leadership retreat in San Francisco. 4th one this year. Who the hell is Sophia Reynolds? She typed, then deleted it. No. This required strategy, not impulse. Vivian took a screenshot of the statement, focusing on that third name and the Peninsula charge. Then she searched her email for previous statements. The authorized user had been added 2 months ago. For 2 months, she hadn't noticed. For 2 months, someone named Sophia Reynolds had been spending her money. She closed her laptop, picked up her coffee, and took a long, deliberate sip. The rage building inside her was cold and precise. Daniel had always told her she was too trusting with their finances, too disinterested. "Just let me handle it, Viv," he'd say with that smile that had once made her feel safe, that smile that now made everything clear. "Oh, Daniel," she said to the empty kitchen. "You have no idea what's coming." 18 years of marriage had taught Vivian patience. For 3 days, she said nothing to Daniel about the credit card or Sophia Reynolds. Instead, she watched and waited. Daniel's leadership retreat ended, and he returned home with his usual performative exhaustion and the faint smell of an unfamiliar perfume. He brought her a silver pendant from a boutique in San Francisco. "Just a little something I saw and thought of you," and kissed her forehead. The pendant looked cheap despite the fancy box. "How was the retreat?" Vivian asked over dinner, pushing salmon around her plate. "Brutal. Back-to-back strategy sessions." Daniel loosened his tie. At 45, he was still handsome in that corporate way. Salt and pepper hair always perfectly cut, his athletic build maintained by the personal trainer he saw 3 times a week. "The company's eyeing some major acquisitions. I might need to travel more in the coming months." "More travel?" Vivian raised an eyebrow. "Didn't you just get promoted to stay local and build the Chicago office?" He waved his hand dismissively. "Plans change. This is how you climb the ladder, Viv. You know that." Vivian did know that. She'd supported every step of his career, even when it meant putting her own graphic design business on hold when their daughter Zoe was born. Even when it meant moving 3 times in 10 years. Even when it meant managing everything at home so he could focus on his precious career. Zoe was in her first year at Northwestern now. The house felt too large, too empty with just the 2 of them. Had been feeling that way for longer than Vivian wanted to admit. "How are things with the Westlake account?" she asked, referring to the client he'd been obsessing over for months. "Good. Great, actually." He brightened. "Jessica thinks we can close by end of quarter." "Jessica?" "Westlake's new CFO, smart woman. Harvard MBA, knows her stuff." "I thought the CFO was a man." "Richard something." Daniel's eyes flickered for just a moment. He retired. "Jessica took over in July." The lie rolled off his tongue so easily. There was no Jessica at Westlake. Vivian had checked the company's leadership page that morning. The CFO was still Richard Donovan. She smiled and reached for her wine. "Sounds like quite the team you're building." The next day, Vivian called their shared financial advisor, Martin, a college friend of Daniel's who had managed their investments for over a decade. I need access to all our accounts, she said after the pleasantries. Of course, Martin replied, though she detected hesitation. Daniel usually handles the portfolio reviews, but I'm happy to walk you through everything. I don't need a walkthrough, Martin. I need access. Passwords, statements, everything. Is everything okay, Vivian? Just getting more involved in our finances. That's a good thing, isn't it? Silence on the line. Then, let me email you the portal information. The portal revealed what Vivian had already begun to suspect. Systematic withdrawals from their joint investment account. $10,000 here, $15,000 there, going back 8 months. Small enough not to drastically affect their bottom line, but large enough that over $120,000 had disappeared. Vivian stared at the screen for a long time, her mind calculating not just the financial cost, but the years of trust that had been siphoned away just as methodically. She needed more information, and she knew where to start looking. She waited until Daniel was at the gym the following evening, then went into his home office. His laptop would be with him, but his tablet was charging on the desk. She picked it up, trying his usual password, Zoe's birthday. Access denied. She tried their anniversary date. Nothing. Then she tried her own birthday, not expecting it to work. The tablet unlocked. At least you remembered something about me, she muttered. Daniel's email revealed nothing unusual at first glance. Work communications, fantasy football threads with his friends, promotional emails from his favorite clothing brands. But when she checked his deleted folder, she found several emails to a Gmail account, sophiareynolds898gmail.com. Most were brief, logistical, meeting times, confirmations of reservations. Some contained only a hotel name and room number. But one from 3 months ago had an attachment, a photo of a young woman with copper hair and green eyes smiling on a beach. The email text read simply, "Missing this view. 3 more days." Vivian's hand trembled as she forwarded the emails to herself, along with screenshots of the financial transactions. A cold, heavy feeling settled in her stomach, not just the pain of betrayal, but the humiliation of discovering that while she'd been managing their home and supporting his career, he'd been building a separate life funded by their shared resources. Resources that included her inheritance from her father, which had allowed them to put Zoe through college without loans and invest in the lakeside property they'd talked about retiring to someday. Next, she checked their phone bill online. A number appeared repeatedly in Daniel's call and text logs, almost daily communication for the past year. She wrote it down, then cleared her browsing history and replaced the tablet exactly as she'd found it. That night, as Daniel slept beside her, Vivian lay awake planning her next move. She thought about confronting him immediately, demanding answers, making him grovel. But something deeper, colder, stopped her. This wasn't just about the affair. This was about the money. Her money. Their future. Zoe's future. No, confrontation wouldn't be enough. She needed to understand the full scope of his deception before deciding how to proceed. And more importantly, she needed to protect what was hers. The next morning, after Daniel left for work, Vivian made an appointment with a divorce attorney. Then she called in a favor from her college roommate Naomi, who now worked as a private investigator. "I need everything you can find on a Sophia Reynolds," Vivian said after explaining the situation, "and I need to know where my husband goes when he's supposedly at work." "Viv, are you sure about this? Sometimes it's better not to know the details." "I'm way past that point, Naomi. He's spending my money on her. I need to know what I'm dealing with." 2 days later, Vivian sat in Naomi's car outside a luxury apartment building in River North. They watched as Daniel's Tesla pulled into the private garage. "She's 32, Naomi said, handing Vivian a folder. "Works at BXC Partners. That's 3 floors down from Daniel's office. They met at a corporate mixer last year. She's been living here for 6 months. Guess who's paying the $4,500 monthly rent?" Vivian flipped through the information. Sophia Reynolds had graduated from Northwestern, the same university where Zoe was now a freshman. The thought made Vivian's skin crawl. "There's more. Naomi continued. She was engaged until about 10 months ago. Called it off suddenly, according to her social media. Right around when the communications with Daniel started ramping up. So he promised her something, Vivian murmured, watching the entrance to the building. Based on the transactions you showed me, he's promising her a lot. 20 minutes later, Daniel emerged from the building with the copper-haired woman from the photo. They walked to a nearby restaurant, his hand resting possessively on the small of her back, the same gesture he'd used with Vivian for years. "I've seen enough," Vivian said, turning away from the window. "What are you going to do?" Naomi asked. Vivian looked down at the folder in her lap, at the credit card statements and bank records she'd gathered, at the photo of the woman wearing a bracelet Vivian recognized from the Cartier charge. "First, I'm going to secure what's mine," she said. "And then I'm going to make them both pay back every penny." The divorce attorney's office was in a sleek high-rise with a view of the lake. Catherine Mills had come highly recommended for high-net-worth divorces, particularly those involving financial deception. "Based on what you've shown me," Catherine said after reviewing Vivian's documents, "we have a strong case for dissipation of marital assets. The court doesn't look kindly on spouses who spend joint funds on extramarital affairs." "What can I do right now, before filing?" Vivian asked. "He doesn't know I know yet," Catherine leaned forward. "Legally, you're entitled to half of all marital assets. I recommend securing your portion immediately. Open new accounts in your name only. Move half of your joint savings and investments. Change the beneficiaries on your life insurance and retirement accounts. Won't that tip him off? Possibly. But if you wait until after confronting him, he might move the money first. Men like your husband often panic when exposed." Vivian nodded, thinking of the lakeside property, the retirement accounts, Zoe's education fund. "What about the credit card? The one he gave her? Cancel it immediately. It's fraud to add an unauthorized user, especially without your knowledge." That afternoon, Vivian opened new accounts at a different bank. She transferred exactly half of their joint savings and investments, just over $800,000. She changed the beneficiary on her life insurance from Daniel to Zoe. Then she called the credit card company. "Need to report fraud on my account," she told the representative, "and I need to cancel an authorized user card immediately." By evening, Sophia Reynolds' credit card had been deactivated and the fraud investigation had begun. Vivian felt the first flicker of satisfaction since discovering the statement. She was reclaiming control, one account at a time. That night, Daniel's phone rang during dinner. He glanced at it, frowned, and sent the call to voicemail. "Work?" Vivian asked innocently. "Just spam," he muttered. His phone buzzed again with a text. Then again. And again. He excused himself from the table, taking the phone with him. From the kitchen, Vivian could hear his urgent whispers in the hallway. "I don't know what happened." "Yes, I'll fix it. Don't worry about the rent. I said I'd handle it." When he returned, his face was composed but tense. "Sorry about that. Client emergency." "Sounds stressful," Vivian said, sipping her wine. "Anything I can help with?" "No, just the usual fire drill." He forced a smile. "How was your day?" "Productive. I had lunch with Naomi." "Naomi from college?" "I thought she moved to Detroit. She's back in Chicago now. Works as a PI. Fascinating job. You wouldn't believe the things people try to hide." Daniel's smile faltered. "That's interesting." The next morning, Vivian received a call from Martin, their financial advisor. "Daniel's been trying to access the investment accounts," he said without preamble. "He seems agitated." "I imagine he is," Vivian replied calmly. "Vivian, what's going on?" "He's talking about emergency liquidations." "I've secured my half of our joint assets, Martin, as is my legal right." Silence. Then, "I see. Do you?" "Because from where I'm standing, you've been helping my husband funnel our money to his girlfriend for months." "That's not... I didn't know..." "Save it, Martin. You've managed our accounts for 15 years. You knew exactly what was happening. After hanging up, Vivian waited for the inevitable. It took less than an hour. Daniel called, his voice tight with barely controlled rage. "What the hell did you do?" "Hello to you too, Daniel." "The accounts, Vivian." "The credit card." "What did you do?" "I protected my assets. And I reported fraud on our credit card." A sharp intake of breath. "We need to talk about this. Face to face." "Yes, we do. And not just about the money." Silence. Then carefully, "What does that mean?" "It means I know about Sophia Reynolds, Daniel. I know about the apartment, the gifts, all of it." More silence, longer this time. When he spoke again, his voice had changed. Softer, placating. The voice he used to manage difficult clients. "Viv, let me explain. It's not what you think. Save it for tonight. I'll be home at 7. "You can explain then." She hung up before he could respond, her heart hammering. There was one more call to make before the confrontation. "Sophia Reynolds?" she said when a young woman's voice answered. "Yes? Who's this?" "My name is Vivian Mercer." "I believe you've been using my credit card." A sharp gasp. I'm Daniel's wife. The woman whose money has been paying for your apartment, your jewelry, your dinners." "He said you were separated," Sophia whispered. "He said the divorce was just waiting on paperwork." Vivian closed her eyes, a wave of pity mingling with her anger. How many times had Daniel used that line? "We're not separated. There is no divorce paperwork. There's just a man spending someone else's money to fund his midlife crisis." "I don't know what to say." "You don't need to say anything, but you do need to do something." "What?" "Meet me tomorrow. The cafe on the ground floor of your building. 10 a.m. "Why would I do that?" "Because I'm not the only one he's lied to, Sophia. And I think you deserve to know exactly who you've been sleeping with." The silence on the other end told Vivian everything she needed to know. She repeated, then ended the call. By the time Daniel came home that evening, Vivian had laid everything out on the dining room table. The credit card statements, the bank records, the emails, the photos Naomi had taken of him with Sophia. He stopped short in the doorway, staring at the evidence of his deception. "Sit down," Vivian said. "We have a lot to discuss." Daniel stood frozen in the dining room doorway, his eyes moving from the documents on the table to Vivian's face and back again. Outside, thunder rumbled, a summer storm approaching, the sky darkening prematurely. "Vivian, if you say this isn't what it looks like, I swear to God, Daniel, I will throw you out of this house right now." Her voice was steady, controlled. She gestured to the chair across from her. "Sit down." He moved slowly, like a man approaching a wild animal, and sank into the chair. His eyes lingered on the photo of him and Sophia entering the River North apartment building. "How long have you known?" he asked finally. "Long enough to secure what's mine. Not long enough to stop being furious." She pushed the credit card statement toward him. "Let's start with this. You added your mistress as an authorized user on our joint card?" Daniel ran a hand through his hair. "It wasn't like that. She needed help temporarily. Her card was stolen and she was waiting for a replacement. For 2 months? During which she charged over $40,000? I was going to pay it back." "With what money, Daniel?" "Our money? The money you've been systematically withdrawing from our accounts?" She slid the investment statements across the table. "Or maybe you were planning to sell the lake house. The one we bought with my father's inheritance?" He flinched at that. "I never touched the lake house. Not yet. But you were running out of liquid assets." Vivian leaned forward. "What was the plan, Daniel? Leave me once Zoe finished college? Once you'd drained enough of our accounts to set up your new life with Sophia?" "No! Vivian, you're making this into something it's not." "Yes, I made a mistake with Sophia." "A terrible mistake. But I never planned to leave you." Lightning flashed outside, briefly illuminating the room. The thunder that followed seemed to shake the house. "So you were just going to continue lying indefinitely? Stealing from our future to fund your affair?" It got complicated. He reached for her hand, but she pulled back. Sophia expected things. Certain lifestyle elements. "I got in over my head." "Certain lifestyle elements," Vivian repeated flatly. "Like a $4,500 apartment and shopping sprees at Nordstrom?" "She's young, Viv. She has expectations about how someone in my position lives." And what position is that exactly? Thief? Liar? Adultera? Each word was precise, cutting. Daniel's face hardened. That's enough, Vivian. Yes, I made mistakes. Serious ones. But I'm still your husband, and I deserve some respect. The laugh that escaped Vivian's throat was harsh and unfamiliar, even to her own ears. Respect? You've been sleeping with a woman half my age, spending my inheritance on her, lying to my face for months, and you want respect? She stood up and walked to the side table, returning with a folder that she placed in front of him. What's this? He asked. Divorce papers. Catherine Mills says we have a strong case for dissipation of marital assets. Catherine Mills? You went to a divorce attorney? His voice rose. Just like that? 18 years of marriage, and you're ready to throw it all away without even trying to work through this? Work through what, Daniel? Your systematic financial fraud? Your year-long affair? Vivian's composure began to crack, her voice trembling with the anger she'd been containing. What exactly is there to work through? People make mistakes, Vivian. Marriages hit rough patches. We can go to counseling. I'll end things with Sophia. I'll pay back every penny. With what money? You've been living beyond your means for months, financing 2 women, 2 homes. She pushed another document toward him. Your company's stock has dropped 30% this year. That bonus you were counting on? The promotion? The board announced restructuring last week. I checked. Daniel's face paled. How did you— Unlike you, I do my research. She tapped the divorce papers. Your financial house of cards was going to collapse eventually. I'm just making sure I'm not buried under it when it does. You've been planning this, he said, a note of realization in his voice. Gathering evidence, talking to lawyers, all while pretending everything was normal. I learned from the best. Vivian smiled coldly. 3 days of investigation revealed what you've been hiding for a year. Imagine what I could have discovered if I'd been paying attention all along. Daniel stood up abruptly. I'm not signing these. Not tonight, not like this. We need to talk this through when you're calmer. Calmer. The word hung between them as Vivian stared at him in disbelief. You think this is about me being emotional? This is about math, Daniel. Simple addition and subtraction. You subtracted from our future to add to your affair. It wasn't just about the affair. Things haven't been right between us for years, Viv. You know that. You've been distant, absorbed in your own world. When was the last time you showed any interest in my life, my work? Don't you dare try to blame me for your choices. Vivian's voice was dangerously quiet. I managed our home, raised our daughter, moved 3 times for your career, put my own ambitions on hold. And in return, you stole from me. I didn't steal, what would you call it then? Taking my inheritance without my knowledge to fund your girlfriend's shopping sprees? Daniel slammed his hand on the table, making the papers jump. Enough, I made a mistake, Vivian. A terrible one. But I'm still your husband, and I still love you. The sincerity in his voice almost made her waver. Almost. If you love me, she said quietly, then you'll make this right. Sign the papers. Give me back what's mine, and end things with Sophia. Completely and irreversibly. And if I do all that, what then? Vivian took a deep breath. Then maybe, we can talk about what comes next. He studied her face, searching for something. A sign of softening, perhaps, or a hint that she was bluffing. Finding none, he slumped back in his chair. I need time to think, he said finally. You have until tomorrow morning. After that, Catherine files the papers, and this gets a lot more public and a lot more expensive. Tomorrow? That's not reasonable, Viv. Neither is bankrupting your family for a woman half your age. She gathered the documents, sliding them back into their folders. Oh, and one more thing. I'm meeting Sophia tomorrow at 10 a.m. His head snapped up. You're what? We have a few things to discuss, woman to woman. Vivian, don't. Please, this isn't her fault. I'm not blaming her for your choices, Daniel. But she owes me money. And I intend to collect. What are you planning? Fear crept into his voice. That's between me and Sophia. Vivian stood up, tucking the folders under her arm. You should call your lawyer and find somewhere else to sleep tonight. The storm outside had intensified, rain lashing against the windows, As Daniel gathered some clothes and left, to a hotel, he said, though Vivian suspected otherwise, she sat alone in their bedroom, the weight of the day settling over her. For the first time since discovering the credit card statement, she allowed herself to cry, for the marriage that had unraveled without her noticing, for the trust that had been so thoroughly betrayed, for the future she had believed in that now lay in pieces around her. But as the tears subsided, a new feeling emerged: determination. This wasn't just about saving her financial future now. This was about reclaiming her dignity and ensuring that both Daniel and Sophia understood exactly what they had taken from her. Tomorrow, she would face the other woman, and neither of them would soon forget it. Resolution. Cafe on the ground floor of Sophia's building was crowded with the morning rush, young professionals grabbing coffee before heading upstairs to their offices, delivery people dropping off packages, a few early lunch meetings getting settled at the window tables. Vivian arrived 15 minutes early and chose a table in the corner with a clear view of the entrance. She ordered a black coffee and waited, the manila envelope containing copies of all her evidence sitting on the table beside her. At exactly 10 a.m., Sophia Reynolds walked in. She was tall and slender, dressed in an expensive-looking cream blouse and tailored slacks, her copper hair falling in loose waves around her shoulders. She looked younger in person than in her photos, and more nervous. She spotted Vivian immediately, likely recognizing her from social media or photos in Daniel's possession, and approached the table with visible trepidation. "Mrs. Mercer?" she asked, her voice soft. "Ms. Reynolds. Please sit down." Vivian gestured to the chair across from her. "Would you like some coffee?" "No, thank you." Sophia sat down, her posture rigid. "I want to say," Vivian held up a hand. "Before you speak, I want to make something clear. I didn't ask you here to create a scene or to hear apologies. I asked you here because we both deserve the truth, and because we both have a financial stake in what happens next." Sophia blinked, clearly thrown off script. "Financial stake?" "Yes." Vivian slid a printed spreadsheet across the table. "This is an itemized list of everything you've charged to my credit card over the past 2 months, totaling $43,256.79. And this," she slid over another document, "is a list of withdrawals from my joint accounts with Daniel that went directly to your apartment, your travel with him, and other expenses related to your relationship. That comes to $127,840. Sophia's face paled as she stared at the numbers. He told me the credit card was his corporate account. And the other expenses. He said he had family money. The family money was my inheritance," Vivian said evenly, "from my father who died 3 years ago. Money that was meant for our daughter's education and our retirement." "I'm so sorry," Sophia whispered. "I had no idea. I believe you." Vivian studied the younger woman's face. "Daniel is very convincing when he wants something. I imagine he told you we were separated? That the divorce was just a matter of paperwork?" Sophia nodded, a flush creeping up her neck. "He said you'd grown apart years ago, that you were staying together for your daughter until she finished college. A convenient narrative. Did he also tell you he was going to leave me once she graduated? That you two would build a life together?" "Yes." Sophia's eyes filled with tears. "He said he was just waiting for the right time, that he didn't want to hurt you more than necessary." "How considerate of him," Vivian said dryly. "And when did you move into the apartment he's paying for?" 6 months ago, after I broke off my engagement," Sophia's voice caught. "Jacob, my ex-fiancé, he never found out why. I just couldn't go through with the wedding knowing how I felt about Daniel." Vivian felt a twist of pity for this young woman who had clearly been manipulated just as thoroughly as she had. "Did Daniel spend last night with you?" Sophia's eyes widened. "How did you—" "Because I confronted him with everything yesterday evening. And I'm assuming he didn't check into a hotel as he claimed. He was upset. Said things were complicated, that he needed time to figure things out." Sophia looked down at her hands. "He wouldn't really explain what was happening." "What's happening, Sophia?" is that Daniel's financial house of cards is collapsing. His company is restructuring, his bonus isn't coming, and half of our assets are now secured in accounts he can't access. What does that mean for us? For him? For you? It means the credit card you've been using is canceled. The rent he's been paying will stop. The lifestyle he's been funding is over. Vivian leaned forward. For him, it means a choice. He can fight me in a messy public divorce where his financial infidelity becomes a matter of record, or he can settle quietly and fairly. Sophia brushed away a tear. And what do you want from me? I want the money back. Vivian pushed a third document across the table. This is a promissory note for the $43,256.79 you charged to my card. You'll notice I'm not including the apartment or other expenses. Those are on Daniel. But the items you personally charged? Those are on you. I don't have that kind of money. I'm aware. That's why the note includes a payment plan. $900 a month until it's paid off, which will take you about 4 years. Sophia stared at the document, then back at Vivian. Why would I sign this? You can't legally make me pay for charges Daniel authorized. True, but I can make things very uncomfortable for both of you. Vivian opened the manila envelope and removed several photographs. These were taken by a private investigator friend of mine. You and Daniel entering your apartment building. The two of you at dinner at Alinea, a dinner charged to my card. The two of you shopping at Nordstrom. She laid the photos out one by one. I'm prepared to send these, along with all the financial records, to the partners at BXC, where you work 3 floors below Daniel. I'm also prepared to send them to the board of directors at Daniel's company, where fraternization with employees of affiliated firms is strictly prohibited according to their ethics policy. Sophia's face had gone from pale to ashen. You would destroy both our careers? You and Daniel were prepared to destroy my life. Vivian's voice remained calm. All I'm asking is for you to take responsibility for what you took from me. For a long moment, Sophia stared at the evidence laid out before her. Then, with trembling hands, she reached for the promissory note. Do you have a pen? She asked quietly. Vivian handed her one. For what it's worth, I don't think you're a bad person, Sophia. I think you fell for the same charming, convincing man I did. The difference is, I had 18 years to discover who he really is. You've had one. Sophia signed the document, then pushed it back across the table. He told me he loved me, said we would build a life together. He probably believed it when he said it. Daniel has always been very good at believing his own stories. Vivian took the signed note and placed it back in the envelope with the other documents. There's something else you should know. You're not the first, Sophia looked up sharply. What? Before you, there was an Amanda. She worked at his previous company. And before her, there was a Vanessa when we lived in Boston. Vivian stood up, gathering her things. The pattern is always the same. Young, ambitious, flattered by the attention of a successful older man. It never lasts more than a year. Why are you telling me this? Because you deserve to know who you've been sleeping with. And because there's still time for you to rebuild your life without him. Vivian looked down at the younger woman with a mixture of pity and resolve. The first payment is due next month. I've included my lawyer's information for where to send the checks. As Vivian turned to leave, Sophia called after her. Wait, what will you do about Daniel? Vivian paused. That's between me and my husband. But I would expect his calls and texts to become increasingly infrequent in the coming days. Outside, the summer morning was bright and clear, a stark contrast to the previous night's storm. Vivian checked her phone. 3 missed calls from Daniel, 2 from Catherine Mills. She returned the lawyer's call first. He came to my office this morning, Catherine said without preamble. Wants to discuss settlement terms. Already? That was fast. He seems motivated to resolve this quickly and quietly. Says he's willing to give you the lake house outright and a 60-40 split of remaining assets in your favor. Vivian thought about the lake house, the place she'd imagined spending her retirement years, watching sunsets over the water, the place that held her father's memory. Not enough, she said firmly. The lake house, yes, but I want 70-30 on the assets. full documentation of all accounts he may have hidden, and a formal acknowledgement of his financial misconduct. He won't like that last part. He doesn't have to like it. He just has to sign it. Otherwise, we proceed with filing and everything becomes public. After ending the call, Vivian walked to her car. Her phone buzzed again. Daniel. This time, she answered. "Catherine tells me you've made a counteroffer," he said, his voice carefully neutral. "Those are my terms." A pause. "And if I agree?" "What then, Vivian? Is there any chance for us to rebuild?" The question hung between them, weighted with 18 years of history, the good years before the betrayals, the life they'd built together, the daughter they both loved. "I don't know, Daniel," she said honestly. "Right now I need to protect myself and what's mine. After that, we'll see. I do love you, Viv. Despite everything I do. Then prove it. Sign the agreement. Pay back what you took. End things with Sophia completely. And then maybe we can talk about what love actually means." 6 months later, Vivian sat on the deck of the lake house, watching the autumn leaves drift onto the water. The divorce had been finalized 3 months ago, quietly, efficiently, with Daniel agreeing to all her terms. The financial separation was complete, with regular payments coming in from both Daniel's settlement and, surprisingly, Sophia's monthly checks. Zoe was home from college for the weekend, inside preparing dinner. She had taken the news of her parents' separation with a maturity that had surprised Vivian, though later admitted she'd suspected something was wrong for years. "You seem lighter." "Mom," she'd said that morning as they walked along the shore. "Happier than I've seen you in a long time." Vivian had to admit it was true. The betrayal still hurt. The loss of what she'd thought her marriage was still ached in quiet moments. But there was also a new sense of strength, of knowing exactly what she was capable of when pushed to her limits. Her phone chimed with a text message. Daniel asking if they could meet for coffee next week. He'd been sending similar messages for months, tentative, respectful, not pushing for reconciliation but clearly leaving the door open. Vivian set the phone aside without answering. She would decide tomorrow if she wanted to see him. Today was about this moment, the peace she'd fought for, the security she'd reclaimed, the future that was once again hers to shape. As the sun began to set, casting golden light across the lake, Vivian closed her eyes and breathed deeply. The ledger had been balanced. Every penny had been accounted for. And in the final calculation, she had gained far more than she had lost.
And that wraps up today's story. Now we want to hear from you. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments, and let's see how far these stories reach. If this story moved you or gave you chills, give it a like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories. One last thing, rate the story from 1 to 10 in the comments. Your feedback helps us bring you even better ones next time. Thanks for watching. We appreciate you being part of this storytelling journey.